Somewhere in the humid forests of southeastern China, inside a hollow reed, a mother wasp is building a tomb. She has hunted spiders, paralyzed them, and tucked them in a row of small chambers, laying a single egg on each still living spider. Then, at the very entrance to her graveyard nursery, she does something unique. She seals the door with the bodies of dead ants. When researchers first cracked open one of these reeds and tipped out its contents, they found a vestibule packed with ant corpses. The team described both the behavior and the wasp that performs it in the same 2014 paper, naming the insect Deuterogenia ossarium, the bone house wasp, after the ossuaries of European monasteries and graveyards, the rooms stacked floor to ceiling with human bones. The bone house wasp belongs to the Pompilidae, the family of spider wasps. These are a global group of 5,000 species, and almost every one of them is a specialist. The adults are nectar feeders, but the larvae are raised on spiders. The basic lifestyle runs through the whole family. Hunt a spider, paralyze it, provision a single offspring, but the Pompilidae have improvised on it endlessly. Some species are ectoparasitoids that lay an egg on a spider and let it wander off to die slowly. Others are kleptoparasites that steal prey from other wasps. Most are solitary, each female working alone, though a few have edged toward social living. All spider wasps make secure nests for raising their young. Some species dig burrows in the soil, some build cells of mud beneath leaves or rock overhangs. And some, like the bone house wasp, move into cavities that already exist, the abandoned tunnels of wood-boring beetles or the hollow stems of dead plants. A female finds a suitable hole, and inside it she builds a linear series of brood cells separated by thin walls of plant debris, resin, or packed soil. Each cell receives a spider and an egg. When the provisioning is finished and the eggs are laid, she constructs one last chamber at the mouth of the nest, an empty antechamber called the vestibular cell, and then she abandons the whole structure. She does not guard the nest, does not return to feed the larvae, does not repair damage. Once she flies away, her offspring are on their own. The bone house wasp was not discovered by anyone looking for it. It was found as a byproduct of a much larger ecological project. The work took place in a nature reserve in Zhejiang province, in the southeast of China, that served as a field site for a major biodiversity project investigating how forest tree diversity shapes the rest of the ecosystem. As part of that project, the researchers set out an army of standardized artificial nests to sample the community of cavity nesting wasps and bees. Back in the laboratory, researchers split open each occupied trap nest and reared the contents until the adults emerged, so that every nest could be matched to the species that built it. In total, they collected 829 nests containing almost 2,000 brood cells, belonging to 18 different wasp species, a cross-section of the local solitary wasp community. But there was an anomaly. 73 of those nests, holding 213 brood cells in all, were sealed not with the usual soil plug, but with a chamber stuffed full of dead ants. When the wasps that built these particular nests finally emerged, the taxonomists realized that they all belonged to a single undescribed species. The nest architecture of these new species is pretty standardized. It is a tube about 10 centimeters long and a little under 7 millimeters across. Running down its length is a series of brood cells, between 1 and 6, each walled off from its neighbors by a thin partition of soil. Inside every cell lies a single paralyzed spider, and on that spider rests one wasp egg. The spiders are consistent. They belong to the Agilenidae, the funnel weavers, a family of ground and crevice-dwelling hunters, which tells us the mother is a specialized predator. And then, at the entrance end of the tube, is the vestibular cell. In her ordinary relatives, this chamber would be empty. In the bone house wasp, it's a slaughterhouse. Each chamber held up to 13 ants. The corpses were in good condition, and across the samples they represented 9 different kinds of ant species, with as many as 4 species sharing a single vestibule. But one ant species dominated overwhelmingly. A large, aggressive species known as Ectomyrmex javanus was the only ant present in 42% of the nests, turning up in all but one nest examined and accounted for 71% of every ant recovered. That sample dominance of one big, well-defended ant is not an accident, and it points straight at how the strategy works. But how exactly the mother wasp obtains such aggressive ants, whether she gathers them already dead or kills them herself, remains an open question that the original study could not resolve. What is clear is the result. She has built, at the threshold of her nursery, a wall of stinging ants. So why does this matter, and why do it? A nest sealed inside a reed is besieged from 2 directions. There are the parasitoids that arrive before the nest is closed, slipping in to lay their own eggs among the provisions. And there are the enemies that attack a finished, sealed nest from the outside. Predators that break in through the plug, and parasitic wasps with long ovipositors that can drill through the walls and deposit an egg into the brood cell without ever entering. The bonehouse wasp's nest were attacked, but very rarely, and tellingly, only by the kind of enemy that gets in before sealing. Of the 213 brood cells reared from the species, just 3% were parasitized. None of the enemies that assault a sealed nest from the outside were ever found inside a bonehouse wasp nest. Now set that 3% against the rest of the wasp community. Across all the other trap nesting wasps in the same forest, the average parasitism rate per plot ran at about 17%, more than 5 times higher. Something about the wall of ants was keeping the killers away. The leading explanation rests on one of the most important facts in the life of ants. They recognize one another by smell. The particular scent blend an ant wears tells its nestmates which colony it belongs to, and colonies defend their borders ferociously on the strength of those chemical signatures. Experiments have shown that the recognition systems can fire on scent alone without any physical contact. A wasp or beetle does not have to touch an ant to be treated as an ant or as an intruder among ants. Here is the key property that makes the bone house strategy possible. These ant scent chemicals are durable. A dead ant still smells like an ant for a very long time. From this, the researchers proposed 2 explanations, not mutually exclusive. The first is chemical camouflage. The pile of ant bodies suffuses the nest entrance with the chemical signature of an ant colony. A parasitoid hunting for wasp grubs by scent, probing the surface of a reed, encounters an unmistakable smell of ants and moves on. The nest has disguised itself as the wrong kind of nest. The second is chemical defense by proxy. The smell of an ant colony is not merely informative to a predator, it's a warning. Ants are dangerous neighbors, and many animals have learned to avoid the scent of an aggressive colony rather than risk being swarmed and stung. This is exactly where the choice of Ectomyrmex javanus becomes so revealing. It is large, so a handful of bodies delivers a heavy dose of identifying chemicals. It is abundant in the region, so a passing predator is likely to have met the living version before and learned to keep its distance, and it carries a powerful sting, which is precisely the reputation our lying wasp wants to borrow. Whether the ants ultimately repel enemies by disguise, by intimidation, or both, the field data delivers the same verdict. The brood behind the ant wall survived far better than the brood behind an ordinary plug. The bonehouse wasp answers the question of how to defend your home and kids when you can't be there by reaching outside her own body and her own family entirely, co-opting the chemical reputation of a dangerous neighbor and stacking that reputation and their corpses across her front door.